as a
Shall I shut that door so you can
please say this, somewhat forward-thinking kind of individual, which my grandfather bred into me.
Outstanding.
Which was, don't believe anything the government tells you. Came from a farming background, and you know, he looked after 500 cows, and he was adamant they would not serve you any purpose. So, from my side, I've been down a rabbit hole, let's say, since a friend introduced me when I was 21 years old and said to me, you need to look at this, and I sort of sat there. And it took him nearly a year to convince me to have a proper look at this stuff. And bear in mind, when I was 21, there weren't such things as the internet. And it was about the 2030 agenda. So this is where my journey starts, the 2030 agenda of how certain things would play out. And I was like, no. And I, at that point, had 3 small children, another one on the way, and I was saying, this can't be right. No, there's no way the government do this. And so as I kept thinking about what Grandad said, the story started to unveil over the years. So for me, my granddad played a very important part in my life. He put me on the back of a cow, which he looked after 500 cows. He put me on the back of a cow at 5 years old and said, right, you know where the paddock is? Yes, Grandad. He said, right, take the cow down there and she'll know what to do. So he smacks the back of the cow and I go off, charging off down the road for about 20 minutes with 500 other cows following me. Bear in mind I'm 5, not even started school. I get to the point where I get to the gate, the cow walks in, this is the matriarch, okay? There's always one cow that's in charge of all the others. She walks in, she walks right the way, does a complete lap of the field, comes back round, all the other pet cows follow her in, good as gold. The minute they're all in, she pushes the gate closed, and Grandad's closing sentence to me was, bolt the gate. So I bolt the gate, jump over the gate, all 500 cows are in the field. That's how easy it is to herd people.
Yep.
Right? Just like us lot, who have all been herded along the way. So I got a baptism of fire, you know, as a very early age. Now for me, went through school, hated school, didn't fit into that. There was a reason I didn't fit into it, because we all know we were taught complete nonsense. On from that, I went on to university and got a degree in agriculture and horticulture. And I remember questioning things when I was at college, and I was told, you don't want to do that if you want to stop here. Well, no, I just want to know, lecturer told me. So I got my degree and then I left and thought, I need to find a different solution to this. And more things were playing out in my life at the same time, with going self-employed and starting to understand how corporations control things. I got into the fruit and veg wholesale trade and got into the position of supplying Sainsbury's. And when I started supplying Sainsbury's, they used to allow you to deliver the veg to the back door, and you went in with your chitty and collected your cash. And that was really good right up until the point where they changed it to central payments, and we never ever got paid again. £452,000 later and a bankruptcy. I went through the system, the bankruptcy, and came out the other side thinking, they did that on purpose. Now, as a lot of you will know, at the moment, we've all been, if you're down the rabbit hole, you know about the concept of how food is going to become short. And I know that a lot of people keep telling me, I'm gonna start doing my food preps. Well, if you haven't started, one might suggest you start fairly quick.
Yep.
And the reason I say, some weeks ago, I got approached by another load of farmers and different people, and they were all like, what are we going to do? What are we as individuals going to do to fight this bullshit which has been put down from above? And one of the big things that's come out of all of that is obviously 3 major things which farmers are kicking up about. One is the point that fuel, as in electricity or diesel, whatever that might be, has gone up exponentially. For no real reason. We all know there's no reason. It's just gone up to push food prices up. Who controls the food chain? Rich people. Oh, I've got my hand up. Right, so they control it. So it's in their interest if oil prices go up and food prices go up. We've been hammered. So I'll backtrack on just for a few seconds. So at this point in my life, I'm a full-time fruit and veg wholesaler. part-time grower, still live on the family farm, and the family farm is having to change considerably since this terrible thing happened and I woke my uncle up. And my uncle was, no, what we need to do is we need to carry on down, commercial. And as I've wiggled him down the road of learning about flat earth and conspiracy theorists and everything else, and he's very awake now, he's starting to change the way we farm. And I have to say, for the better. Now, there's three things I say which are kind of concerning the farmers, and I'll end up with where this concern is going to go. So, one of the big things has been about the cost of fuels, whether that be electricity or diesel, whatever. One of the other things is about this great thing we've all been taught about now called net zero. And net zero is a terrible thing, right? And if you don't understand how many cows need to fart to kill you, you will do soon, because the narrative is going to get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. So net zero is coming to play in the farming community in several ways. So one, we've been told to reduce livestock by up to 20% over the course of the next 12 months. On from that, what will happen, I'll guarantee this, when we hit that target, they'll go, oh, it's not enough yet. What we need to do is go another 20%. And they'll just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until you really eat your bugs. Now, within this net zero policy, what's coming out of that is, from my side, that I'm seeing more and more and more, is the amount of land what's been taken out of circulation for food and put into growing pretty flowers. Well, I don't know if you've tried, but they're not very good to live on. They're not very sustainable for the general public. Now, they are good for wildlife, but the same people who are harping on about let's grow pretty flowers also fund Monsanto.
Yeah.
It's just the whole thing. We all know what the game is, and it's just, spin this plate while you're spinning this plate, and move this muppet while you're milking this muppet. So there's all these things coming together. One of the other big things which has come to play in the last sort of certainly 10 years, and that's really now coming to heel, is the difference in between what farmers produce food for and how much supermarkets sell it for. So a bottle of milk, I think, is somewhere around about 160, 170 for a 2 litre in Tesco's. The farmer gets paid 36 pence a litre.
Wow.
The cost of production is 42 pence. So every time a tanker goes up the drive, you lose 250 quid. Tanker goes up the drive twice a day. Right? So a lot of these farmers that I'm talking to are just suicidal. They do not know what to do. Now, the supermarkets and the, what I'm going to class as like the packing houses that pack for the supermarkets, or whether that's a food producer, like someone like the big ones, they will be in the position that they're always arguing to keep the price of the farm down. The problem is, feed costs from my side, if I talk about just chicken food here, 8 years ago when I took my farm on, a bag of chicken food was £4.90. Now it's nearly £20. That's how much it's gone up. Now, the interesting thing is, grain off the farm was £170 a tonne 8 years ago. Grain off the farm this year is £170 a tonne. So how do you make it that those 80 bags of chicken feed, what make up 1 tonne, have gone up £800 in the production of it, but the farmer ain't getting no more? Doesn't stack up. So there's come to a point where something's got to give, and something I believe is going to come to heel very shortly. So some weeks ago, I think it's about 4 weeks ago now, I got a message from several farmers after I put up a video with me in my granddad's bowler hat, and was very direct and blunt in my delivery of what I think is going to happen with food supply. And several farmers contacted me from different parts of the country and said, what we really ought to do is get together and start this campaign. And I said, okay, let's do that. And I spoke to a couple of friends who have done big campaigns for politicians and product launches and all sorts, and said, could we perhaps get a little bit of help from you, because we don't really know how to do this. At the end of the day, I grow fecking tomatoes. That's what my passion is. I don't know anything about anything else. I can raise pigs or cattle, but I don't know a lot about running a campaign. So we got several of them on board, and as a result of that, we launched, I think it's about 18 days ago now, a Twitter page. And as a result of launching that, we've got over 50,000 followers on there now. We've deleted a lot of accounts because we realised there was a lot of accounts on there which were bot controlling ones. So we've deleted loads of them as we've gone along. We're constantly cleaning that out to just end up with core people who want to follow the cause. Now, as a result of that, we're now launching across other platforms as well. What we wanted to do was, I've realised that, is it fair to say that there's a few people in the room here that are quite awake?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're the Yellowboard family or you're flat Earth or you're just a bloody conspiracy theorist like I am. You know I am because my mum told me. So now, what I have seen is things what for 4 years we've all stood on the roads or spoken on Facebook about, or YouTube, whatever it might be, and been laughed at for a simple reason. They did not unite people. No matter how much we believe they do, they did not unite the people in the background. As a direct result of that, what I'm starting to see is, without any doubt at all, this thing what we're going to sit down at 1:30 to have has a challenge. If you remove it, you remove us lot. The new policies that are coming out in the stewardship programs, or you know, the farming agendas what have been put into place. I'll give you an idea of how this is playing out. So, one of the new stewardship programs works like this. In year one, so this is me as farmer here. If you've got 100 acres of land, you can get £250 per acre to grow pretty flowers. Right? You will earn, growing, let's say wheat, possibly per acre, you might earn £20. Right? So it's a complete no-brainer for a farmer to go, I think what I'll do is take the £250 an acre. Because once you've drilled it, you don't do nothing. You don't need any staff, you don't need any equipment, you don't need any holiday pay, sick pay, nothing. You just need the flowers to grow. And the butterflies and the bees will have a wonderful time. But you might go hungry. So, as a result of these new policies, in year one, I can put in 50% of my land. So if I've grown 100 acres normally, next year I'm only going to be growing 50 acres. Okay? Year two, we then put in another 50% of that land. So by year 5, we're not growing anything. It's a 5-year scheme. Someone said to me the other day, this was my mum by the way, and I love my mum. She says to me, yeah, but all we'll do is we'll just import it. I said, where are we going to import it from, Mum? Well, Europe. I said, Mum, they've got the same policies in place as we have. I'd have to bring it in from somewhere else. I said, Mum, everywhere has got the same policies being pushed down by the World Economic Forum. She said, well, who are they? Never heard of them. Interesting, let me tell you. So the World Economic Forum put these different things, you can call them whatever you like in different countries, but they all come back to the same thing. They're paying people not to produce food, not to grow food. So, over the course of the next, this harvest we're now going into, okay, which is only now 4 months, 5 months away, will be our last full harvest, unless something is done about this bullshit which has been put out. So you've got a situation where you've got less food in the system, you're going to have more demand on the food in the system, okay? Got a lot more mouths to feed in the country now, and it isn't going to be there. So when I say to people, I would suggest stocking up with food, I genuinely mean I would stock up with food. Now, it might be that things change. red, blue, green or yellow, I don't care who you vote for, will not make a buck's worth of difference to the food what's going to be put on your table. World Economic Forum have very, very cleverly, in my opinion, I hate to say that because I don't want to class them as clever people, have very cleverly manipulated the masses, and I exclude us from that, I will say, but they have convinced the masses that the requirement is there to believe,
Revelation.
because of us at 4 or 5 year old going into school, coming through the system, like good boys and girls, we got right to the point we left school, and then you go to university, and then you come out 30 grand's worth of debt, and then you go, well, now I have to go and get a job and do what I'm told, because otherwise I can't pay 30 grand's worth back. It's a trap, we all know that, and it's not until you've gone down a few rabbit holes and you start to go down different rabbit holes and come back up and you go, actually, it's a complete trap. Well, that trap's now got so severe that by the end of this summer, when the last harvest comes in, next year we will only produce 50% of our food. Now bearing in mind, we only produce 60% of the food we need for the UK anyway. The other 40% comes in. So you can take that 40% away to start with, because we all know under the green agenda, there won't be any boats, there won't be any planes, there won't be any... So once you take out that 40%, what's coming in, and you go, that's all right, we'll live seasonally. Okay, well that's all right. I can live with that. I remember when I was a kid, and Nan did loads of preserves, and we got through the winter with what was in the freezer or what was in the garden, whatever. However, the challenge comes when you can't bring that stuff in, and people no longer have the knowledge to do that. There's very few people now, I can barely cook, and I'm the first one to say it. I genuinely could barely cook. So when you look at the facts of what's already missing, including knowledge, because they've deliberately done this and they've played this out this long to lose the last generation. Because the last generation, if you take people like my dad, for instance, who's a mechanical engineer by profession, grew up on the farm, decided the farm life wasn't for him, but went off to get a job working for the council, paid for by the government, and there isn't a brown envelope that comes through the letterbox that he doesn't just go, just pay that. No, I can't, Dad. Just pay it. No, I can't. It's council tax, it's the TV line, I can't, Dad, sorry, I don't believe it. But that's that programming from school right the way through. You see it in the councils, we've been in council meetings, haven't we, and it's just fucking, it's painful. They've got no idea about the real world. And DEFRA, who monitor farms, they are a dangerous bunch of people, really, really dangerous bunch of people. They have no idea. There's not one of them that ever, apart from going out to criticise a farmer, has never ever stepped foot on a farm and actually done a day's work. I say to them, come down for the day, love to have you down. Ask them any questions, they can't answer the questions. They can pull you to bits on things, but they can't answer any questions. So, where do we end up here? If we go down the road as we are at present and say, well, for the next 5 years we'll just keep reducing the food, I could probably do with losing the food that's feds, and I don't know. And I've been prepping for food for a long time, and I mean a long time. I've been prepping now for a good few years. At the start of the pandemic, I was one of the first ones to ring my 4 children, and so I WhatsApped them and said, guys, I need to have a little word with you. I think in the next 2 weeks, this is going to play out. My oldest daughter messaged me back and she said, Dad, don't worry about a thing. I'm all over this. I've been following this. I know exactly what's coming, and I'm with you. We're well stocked up. That's brilliant. My next daughter down, 2 years younger, she rings me. She says, Dad, you are funny. She says, I live on an army base. I'm married to a captain. She said, do you think they're going to let me go hungry? I said, well, I hope not, darling, but you never know. I said, have you got a bit of stocking? She said, don't worry, we'll reorder it upon it down. Right. So my next daughter down, says to me, she rings me and said, Dad, you're funny. She said, I've just been to Tesco's, they've got loads of stuff. 2 weeks later, when all the crap kicked off, my youngest daughter, who at that point had run out of food, daren't even ring me. She got her 5-year-old daughter to ring me. In tears, Granddad, we haven't got any food in the house. I said, haven't you? I thought Tesco's had some. So I sent a load of food around. To give you an idea of the stupidity of it all, okay? We had a farm shop and we did veg box deliveries. And we went from doing £100 a day in the farm shop and 10 veg boxes a week to 400 veg boxes a day and £15,000 a day in the farm shop. And we had people queuing up the drive, and we used to take chairs out for the old people and put them out. Put your chair down with you. It was insane. That was just a test to see how you reacted. Be assured when I say that, that is what that was about.
Yeah.
That was no more than a test to see what our responses were, how we as suppliers of food could react. That's why they were not worried what the outcome for the supermarket was. Right? Tesco's in Bury St Edmunds, I know the guy was the manager there, I know him really well. And I said to him, so I won't name him, but I said to him, are you not worried about this? He said, why would we be? He said, we'll get this back on track, don't worry. They went from having 3 delivery trucks to 26 delivery trucks 4 years later. The stores, in turn, will not supply food in the future. So what his job is now, he's been moved up about 10 levels in Tesco's. What they're doing is they're moving, so if you've got a massive warehouse this big or massive shop this big, and you've got a little bit in the corner what's the warehouse where the trucks come into, that's all going to change. What you'll have is, the small space at the front like a Tesco's Express, which you will not get into without your beep and your digital ID. And they will have the rest of it as a warehouse, which is all automated. So when the lorries roll in, the robots unload it, the robots fill the shelves, the robots pick the orders, and the robots deliver your food. No human involved at all. They're trialling one at the moment in Cambridgeshire. That worries me. It worries me a lot. As a greengrocer, that worries me a lot. Now, I said to him, but if there's no farmers, where's the food going to come from? You want to start looking into some things that I've seen in the past few days, which Lord Sainsbury and different people are working on, of what you will eat in the future.
Genetically modified?
Genetically modified, a lot of stuff which is going to be made from byproducts of the oil industry, for instance. They can give you all the lip service they want about what they're going to, we'll have electric cars and we'll do away with diesel. They will never get rid of oil, be assured. I don't know if you're aware of this, and lots of you, if you've gone down rabbit holes, I'll just give you a quick lesson on something. And some years ago, I worked with a Polish guy called Roman Numerologicz. And Roman was an absolutely top guy. He worked directly for Mr. Putin. And his job was, when the oil gets sold, all the money what comes in from the oil sales on a day comes into the bank at 5 o'clock at night. And it goes out at 9 o'clock the next morning. And his job was to earn 1 pence per barrel on the money overnight. Right? 1 pence. That's all he had to do. And he told me the most bizarre thing when he worked with me. And I said to him, Roman, that cannot be right. He said, I'm telling you. He said, the earth is a living organism.
Yes.
He said, and just like you, if you cut you and take out a pint of blood, what happens? I said, well, my body regenerates a pint of blood. He said, oil wells are no different.
Yeah.
He said, absolutely understand that. He said, you can draw out, if you leave a well, he said, if the well heals, you might not get any more oil out of it. As long as it doesn't heal in the ground, you will keep drawing the oil off of that forever. Why on earth would they want to stop that? They've got no desire to go down the road of having battery-powered chuckle brother cars, you know. It doesn't make any sense. So, the food, and where's it going to end? We started off with 7 of us on this group. We went up to 70. That's now sitting at a representation of 7,000 farmers. We've had lots of questions asked, or I have definitely, about this one particular thing. Well, Mark, I've seen what's going on in Europe. Why are our farmers not out yet? Well, I'll tell you the answer. And it ain't because they're gutless, it ain't because they won't go out. It's because I had a conversation with an English friend of mine who lives in Germany. He's married to a German farmer's daughter, Dwayne. And he rings me and says, you know, we're all going out tomorrow, aren't you? When are you lot coming out? Sorry? And this is now 12 weeks ago when this conversation started with him, when he said about their coming out. He said, well, we've organised a 4-week campaign to get the public on board. We're going to go 4 weeks out to get the public out with us. And then after the 8th week, we'll cause complete fucking carnage. He said, and that's what we will do. And that's exactly how they played it out. They didn't take a tractor on the road to start with. So we set up a 4-week campaign. We've got 50,000 followers on, you know, social media. We'll go, that will soon roll out over the other platforms and people will start spreading on there. And then at some point, once all that's caught up to spec, everyone's like, you're going to miss the opportunity because the farmers are not going to go, trust me, the farmers who have gone out in across Europe will not be going home anytime soon. Even if the European Union backs down and gives them exactly what they want, the farmers ain't going to go home. And they're not going to go home for a reason. And I think, I'm standing here, I'll put a bit of wood on this. When people understand that the supermarkets, the banks, and all the big corporations that are owned by BlackRock and whoever else are all so embedded, and the only way you can fight that system is to take your money out of it. Okay? Now, I don't believe that it makes any difference to the government, and genuinely, if you don't pay your council tax. Because they just print some more. They don't make no odds. What I do think can make a difference, if you don't pay your council tax and you don't pay some of your other bills that are reliable to the government, is you spend that money on doing something constructive to fight the system. Food unites every person on this planet. I don't know, I remember when my wife and I separated, and I'm going back 20 odd years ago now, and I will tell you the story, but if I cry, I'll apologise up front, right? I remember my best mate came round to see me, he's a chef, and he says to me, and my wife and I had separated, I'd gone and got a little place to live in, and this was on the 23rd of December, and he came round and my kids had decided they didn't want to live with their mum, they wanted to live with me. Now that was lovely, apart from one simple thing. 18 years of marriage, I'd never stepped foot in the kitchen once. She'd say to me, you go to work and earn money, and I wasn't even allowed to boil a kettle. So when the kids came to live with me, I was like, right. So I used to ring my mate and say, right, I'm going to do spaghetti bolognese, what do I need? He'd say this, 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 and this. Anyway, came to 23rd December, and I'd gone from a dad who worked from 3 in the morning till 10 at night, and then I was suddenly restricted to I couldn't go to work until 10 when I got the kids into school, and I had to be home by 3 to pick them up from school, and I wasn't earning any money, and I hadn't even got any food in the house. And I'd got about 50 quid, which was the day before Christmas, I've got no presents, nothing. And I thought, the kids are young enough to know that if Father Christmas doesn't turn up, there's an issue. But probably when they're older, won't really remember if they had beans on toast on Christmas Day. So I bought a couple of presents and just thought I'll wing it. One of the family had been around for Christmas Day, it'll be alright. And I rang my mum and she said, glad you're home, darling, we're going away tomorrow. said, right, okay, no worries, Mum. And I rang the older sister and she said, oh yeah, she said, I'm off away as well. She said, I'm going up to the coast. I'll ring my little sister. I said, hey sis, how you doing? She said, oh, she said, we're going away for the weekend as well. So now I'm thinking, it's Christmas Eve, I've got no money to buy any food. And I remember my mate came around to see me and he said, what are we having for dinner then? I said, well, at the minute, not a lot. And he went to the cupboard and he went, you seriously that low on food? I went, I said, I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow. Anyway, he went off, I never thought no more of it. I lived in the middle of nowhere, in Little Wellington. And that night, I heard a car pull up, this was about 10 o'clock at night, I heard a car pull up and I thought, that is about. Heard a bang outside the front door, car was gone and I went out, strange, turned the outside light on, and there was a food hamper with a turkey on top, copy of a DVD, Pay It Forward. I don't know if any of you have watched the film, but I would suggest if you haven't, you find a copy of it. And there was a Christmas card, and the Christmas card said, remember you're loved and somebody cares. Right now, we had a great Christmas dinner. But I remember the thought on that day of being fucking hungry and thought, oh, I never want to live through that again. And I've been fortunate that I've been in a position to, with my growing knowledge, that I've been running a farm and teaching people how to grow food. I've now got a different site now, which is on my uncle's farm, because he's starting to understand we need to diversify, otherwise grow pretty flowers. And on the other side, that we could be in a position that we could stockpile some food. I've done all of those. And if you don't have any seeds and you think you're going to grow some food in the future, I would suggest you're running out of time really quickly. I think if we do not stand up as a nation, and not just this nation, I think within the next 5 years, we will have a very depleted population. Genuinely believe that wholeheartedly. My partner and I separated, ex-partner, we separated 6 months ago because of my beliefs. And me stockpiling food in the house and her going, you're just crazy, you know. And I thought to myself, I've either got to believe in myself and my thoughts, or bow to the requirement of what I'm being told by somebody else who believes the system is there to protect them. And I would say, surely you would rather that you believe my thoughts in my protecting you as the person who loves you than the government who just charges you to live. No. So I had to make the right decision for me and I left. Now, it's interesting that she's now starting to see some of this play out. And she messaged me yesterday and she said, I've been following your campaign. I said, oh, that's good. She said, and I've been watching some of the videos. That's good. It's quite worrying, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I said, I've been trying to tell you this for the whole 5 years we've been in our relationship. People are starting to wake up. And while you might not get through to people, if you talk about flat earth, you know, I mean, I was led to believe from a very young age that the Vikings who invaded us believed there was an edge. Wherever you believe the edge is, I've seen several different flat earth maps, and I believe outside this lovely little ice wall is lots of pretty places where other people live. Yeah. I also believe that a lot of people who go missing or mysteriously might die, who belong to an elite race, let's say, probably end up there. I might be completely mad. I don't know. I don't believe what we're told. I don't believe anything what we're told. I remember as a small child looking back on the moon landings and saying to my mum, that ain't right. What do you mean, darling? I said, the flag's burning. I said, we've learnt about this at school, there can't be no oxygen up there. And how did they get that big trucky thing inside that little spaceship, Mum? Darling, don't be silly, they've got another spaceship there as well. Oh, they must have lots of them. I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything we've been told. And if anyone believes that the government is going to step in and help us with the food situation, trust me. I mean, you've probably all seen these videos of underground bunkers they're building and, you know, what's going on. And, you know, everyone will say, oh, maybe they're going to drop a nuclear bomb on us. I don't believe they exist either. I had this conversation with ourselves, Paul earlier, and I was saying, I was away at a seminar, I was talking to a Japanese lad, and he said to me, I didn't know at the time he was Japanese, apart from his name was Tokyo. Right? And he said to me, he said, yeah, he said, strange, you know, about nuclear weaponry when we was talking about different things. And he said, my grandparents were in Japan, in Hiroshima when this happened. I said, oh, really? I said, they lived? He said, yeah. He said, they did drop a big bomb. He said, and it did cause a lot of devastation. He said, but if you go there, he said, you know, have you ever been there? I said, no. He said, they've rebuilt it all. He said, and they couldn't have done that if that happened. He said, and the people what allegedly died never died. He said, none of it's true. He said, that's fear, and that's bred into you from birth to believe. And I remember growing up as a kid, you know, with predominant people there come from East Anglia, fair to say, yeah. We've grown up with knowing there's nuclear weaponry at Lakenheath, and we'd all live on the understanding of, well, it doesn't matter, 'cause at least if they drop one, we're all right, we'll go first. Is that right? When you start to question it, you can pull it all to bits. It's like a big pack of cards. We all know that. You can pull it to bits really easy. So the food side, what's next? We could all grow our own food. We could all stockpile food. We could, without a doubt, probably put up a bit of resistance about that. But they could just say, well, you're not. The law is now you're not going to produce your own food. They're already edging at that. You'll see different bits of that coming out in the news. You'll also see that there's several bits coming out about, you know, cows farting. It's terrible. Can't have that. You're going to have to slaughter all the cattle. And you can see this is just happening, and it's getting further and further and further down this road. The only other option is the whole country, and I mean the whole country, stands up and has this out with them. And I do think that's coming. And that's the reason that we have not taken tractors on the road yet, because if we can get the public to support this, then we stand a chance. I think, and I'm speaking independently here and nothing to do with the No Farmers No Food project, which I'm one of the organisers, but my independent thought on this is that I think within the next 2 weeks you will see tractors on the road.
Dover.
Sorry?
Started in Dover.
Yeah, well, Dover's, it's a slightly different issue what the farmers down there are dealing with. They're dealing with the fact of they're dealing with just about cheap inputs. That's what they're dealing with. However, that's one of many things which fits into that, but that was their easy target because of where they were pitched. Now, that was very much, the Dover thing was very much a let's test the water and see what people think. 3,000 farmers in Wales got together the other day, a big rally, and they were talking about the situation of taking their tractors to the Welsh Government. Now they haven't as yet, but I think they will. And I think in the next 2 weeks you'll see that happen. The next 2 weeks has a lot of relevance. Next 2 weeks is about mobilisation of a lot of people. Lots of Yellow Board families have been contacting me and several of the other members saying, what can we do? I know that some of you all know Kelly Lovelash. Yeah, Kelly. She's down at Orpington today. There's an anti-ULEZ rally going on down in Orpington today, down in London. There's several tractors at that. I've already been sent the videos and so forth. Yellow Boards are out supporting them. Why? Because all of these things are connected. ULEZ and the zero emissions programs which they're bringing into play affect us on every level. It's about movement, us not having that freedom to move, and that net zero reduces our food down to nothing. There is no way, once you get to net zero, right, I'm no scientist, but I'm sure a lot of you are probably about my sort of age, maybe younger, but when we went to school, we were taught the basics of getting things to grow. And the basics of getting things to grow is, with a plant, am I right for time?
Yeah, couple of minutes.
Yeah. Carbon dioxide goes into a plant, oxygen comes out. That's the basics, yeah? Understood? Okay. So if you remove the carbon dioxide, where do we get our oxygen from? Where do the plants, how do the plants live? They don't. It's as simple as that. It's a fair exchange between us and plants. That's the guarantee which God gave us, or the universe, whichever person you think created it all. That is the simplicity of it. If you get us to net zero, we have an issue. Now, I don't know about anybody else. I personally don't fancy that. So I would suggest, and this is only my suggestion, if you are involved in any form of protests about anything in your life, when the food protest starts, I would suggest, hand on heart, if you want to eat in the future, we either need to break the government, our government, whoever's controlling the Muppets, and we need to do it on scale, and I cannot emphasise that enough.
Amen.
We have one shot at this,
Yeah.
and that's the reason everyone's held back. We have one shot at making sure our kids, grandkids, and everybody else down the line gets fed. I don't want to even think about that, you know. I know I've got a bucket load of food. It will only last them so long. No matter what happens, if there's no new food going in the system, everyone's going to want it. So, on that happy note, boys and girls, remember, no farmers, no food. I've taken the liberty to bring several beautiful posters. So, if you want some posters, help yourself. These have been
Yes, please.
funded via our Sovereign Council in Bury St Edmunds and the Sovereign Council in Thetford. We're obviously happily taking donations because we're going to get more of these. We've raised £550 so far to go towards paying for these, and we've got some beautiful banners. Sorry, can I just get you to hold that, young lady? So we've got some of these done, which are going up on the bypasses and motorways and things.
Yeah.
So I did bring a couple of them. If anyone's got a bridge near them that overhangs a bypass, obviously
Yeah,
I can't tell you because that's not nice to do things like this. Someone took the liberty, I'll just say this before I sit down, someone took the liberty the other day, and I put it on our group, that someone had put a sign, one of those, outside our local MP's house. Thank you.
Thank you.